by Moulijn from the Delft University in Netherlands, and the co-worker is in there, please. And the title is Hydrogeologic Coordination of 1-2 high total volcanoes PD comfort support and carbon.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. What I want to do today, I want to do two things, but I will come to two messages. The first one is on TEOM, that's a new microbalance, and I think our conclusion is it's very well suited for people in catalysis. Not only in coat deposition, and I'll give an example, a little bit outside the scope, but I think it's important. And the second point, of course, I come to the results we have got on platinum copper carbon catalysts in the second dehydrogenation. What can you expect? What can you expect? I first got to introduce the subject. Why did we do that? Why is it important? Then I come to TEOM. I go with some detail, dependent on the time, I should say. I'll spend time with it. And then I give an example of absorption. Classical work, I would say. You can do that very well. It's a good microbalance. You also can use it for diffusion, internal diffusion measurements. And in our feeling, it's a very powerful technique. We used a lot. And of course, we go to in-situ coat deposition. And that's then the example I treat short. That will be a decoordination of 1,2-dichloropropane. I show you adsorption, rates of coat formation, and we have a certain objective. I'll explain you that. So it's the fresh and the spent catalyst, and also it has a rather dramatic behavior response on coat deposition. Everything changed, not only the activity. That's interesting, and I come to this concluding remarks. First, why do we do it? In the propene oxide production, there are two processes basically, the hydroperoxide process and the chlorohydrate process. And this one is about 50% in the other also. So both are at the moment very important processes. And then in a very simple way, we characterize the process, and I don't want to go in detail, of course, but for you who don't know, it's a properly chlorine water reactant feed. And what we find then is that the chlorohydrine, I suppose, and we find a lot of byproducts, chlorinated hydrocarbons. That's what you expect, of course. And dichloropropane is 6 to 9%. That's quite a high number, of course. And then the question is how to deal with it, and could you use selective hydrogenation to transform that molecule. And when you look to that, there are a few options, and there's some literature, not so much. You can use hydrotreatment catalysts at a rather high pressure and temperature. And also you could go to novel methods, and they are much more active. Say atmosphere, 500 K. But as people in this audience will be aware of, deactivation is the major issue, of course. You should expect it. HCl is a point, rhodium is out, coke. Supports, you can choose between ceramic supports. Aluminum silica are used as an activated carbon. Aluminum silica, of course, in this acid atmosphere will become more acid, of course. And that means that you could have some reorganization of the surface and also more coke formation. Activated carbon is stable, so in a way that's the obvious choice. And then the point still is stability and selectivity. And then to the project I'm talking about, Dow Chemical Company has published a paper that one chloride goes off, and that is one chloride containing molecule, and then of course you would have a complete dechlorinated molecule. I would say, when you're not in this field, you would not expect that you could make propene as an imaging product. It's rather exceptional, I would say. In this field, you more often see those things. I have no time to give an example. It can be that because of the kinetic scheme, you find a completely dechlorinated product, so it's a kind of initial product. So that's anyway quite interesting. And there was only one big problem. The caps show strong deactivation and loss of selectivity. That means that loss that you at a certain moment make more chlorinated products, single chlorinated products than chlorine-free products. That's a very important point. What we want to do is we want to elucidate the mechanism of deactivation. Is coke the major point? Might sintering play a role? And after Gustavo this morning, I shouldn't talk about probably anymore, but you'll see we conclude that sintering is not a point here. And is there a relation with activity and selectivity? Also, nice of the project is that in fact they do not find protein. So it's a very selective reaction effect, up to the point that you have too much deactivation. I come back to the first I want to introduce the TEOM to you. The TEOM is a microbell that has been invented, I think, in the laboratory of Exxon, I'm not really sure, I think end 80s or so. I want to compare this conventional TCNA and give you some applications, absorption, transient work, and then come to evaluation. First, the classical, the conventional microbalance. That's of course you have here the samples, chemical particles in some environment, and the gas comes down and will mainly pass it. You have always a mass transfer problem, that type of things. And to convince you, I think this is a nice example of much earlier work we did do. This is carbon oxidation, copper catalyzed, and here's the rate plot against the dispersion temperature. So what you see here, the low temperature over here, and the copper increases, the activity increases as you would expect. But for every curve that you see, is when the activity increases, you see is kind of runaway. And that's because the heat exchange with the neighborhood is not optimal, as you would expect, because a packed bed, big packed bed, relatively, in a flowing atmosphere. And on top of that, you should also see a maximum. Here, about 10 milligram per hour per milligram. Of course, that's a little bit dependent on the flow rate. But it's also so that completely externally mass transfer limited. So you could say that classical microbalance has some limitations, runaway, maximum rate, and also an unknown amount of bypassing. I remember, for instance, when I started this work, I attended a lecture by Gilbert Fremont, and he told that in Ghent he had a recirculation system to be under STR conditions to solve it. But so we do the same, then on my work, but TEOM is simpler. Why is TEOM simpler? We did it half at that time. It's a vibrating system. You vibrate something, and the vibration frequency depends on the mass. So from the field, you can calculate mass. The good thing is that you are free in design of the sample. And what they do, the sample gas goes through the bed. So you have a packed bed, flows through by the gas, and it works fantastic. And I know that our chair also applies that system. I think it has nearly all the advantages you can see as I have done. Well, of course, it's a normal setup with some gas phase analysis. We had some adaptive system to have liquid feeds, and it's a very small one. It's convenient. It is acceptably user-friendly. response and see how the whole system reacts to the step response. Here is an example of propene absorption in a certain geolite. You see that when you increase pressure, you see these are the data you find on the equilibrium conditions. These are TEOM data. When you do a blank, meaning a sample that's, let's say, non-porous, what has absorbed, you also find something, and you find then that with the pressure also the background increases. So you have to correct it. When you correct it, you will have a very nice answer that you really can trust. I must say we did do this a lot. I will give you only one example, but you can very carefully, when it was a good student, very well measure it the first test. Okay, you have to correct that. Here's this example of our instrument. You want to know how good are the sensing conditions, and here when we change the pressure, especially time, these are 10 seconds, you see that the TEOM lags behind a little bit, about 5 seconds. That's because our flow equipment, so our flow is over kind of things. The microvells itself has a sensitivity about 0.1 second. So we do work where we can accept 5 seconds. That's because already very good. Now then an example, a real example, a real life example. This is dimethyl butane, circular light. You see here the absorption outer surface at different temperatures. And of course we have the linear region, non-linear region. And most techniques, and I'm not talking about mass transfer, will confine themselves to the linear region. That's what's easiest. I do first the same. So I first give, for example, data. This is at high temperature. They have not much absorption. It's linear. And you will see that interpretation is straightforward. Here you see an adsorption. So I enter the desorption. And you see you can model that with the same diffusion coefficient. And that's fantastic because then you feel comfortable. And so for in linear range, the TEOM gives very easy, good data. Well, to win time, I skip lips, so you can believe me that they are quite reasonable. They have been not reasonable. I have not shown the data, of course. So you can trust them. When you're in non-linear region, the absorption and desorption are quite different. Absorption, you see it in 1,000 second scale, and here we are at the 20,000 second scale. So it's quite a difference, and that you should expect for several reasons. And one, of course, is that our model predicts that, because the occupancy is in the model, of course, should be in it. In fact, thick doesn't hold. You need a chemical potential-based formula that's driven. But there's another thing. Absorption is exothermal, so there's not any certainty that you're not here at a higher temperature than you think. In a normal microbalance, that will be enormous, the difference. But so in TEOM it could be. So we concluded that you always should calculate the diffusion coefficient in the model from desorption data. And it goes with TEOM very reliable. And again, the explanation is the model and the recommendation. Then the don't use FIC, but we know it, of course. And the TEOM gives for 2 reasons very good data. Heat effects are less, and you have much less mass transfer mutations, and they, of course, account. So the conclusion is that you can use TEOM very well. Oh, to win a little bit of time, I went quickly through it, but I will summarize TEOM. That's not good. I still have it. I'm good at that, and stuck is a microphone. Okay, coming back to the example I want to talk today, pressure spent. You see here the porosity, that for the activated carbon 66, fresh nearly the same micropores, and the surface area. You see that the platinum carbon has the same texture as you should expect, of course. It contains a half weight percent platinum and 0.9% copper. I have to comment upon that. There's more copper and platinum in it. On an atomic scale, much more, about 10 times more or so. So it's more a copper catalyst than a platinum catalyst in terms of amounts. The spent catalyst has much lower porosity and surface area. It contains about 35% copper, quite a lot. But it goes down more than 35%, so you block a lot of pores, especially micropores. So the system is platinum copper will change the texture, as you would expect. And coke, mainly micropore, but also a metal pore system. So that gives you a picture of the system. When we look at absorption of the reactant, and not under reaction conditions, but you see that the DOS isocell fits well, as it usually does do for activated carbon measurements. It's a good model. It's semi-empirical. You can come up with an interpretation. And then when we compare the three systems at room temperature, we see here the active carbon and the platinum copper. They're the same. The spent catalyst shows a much lower absorption, and no one will be surprised at that, of course. The other way around, you would not believe me and go for coffee probably. So that's logical. But when we reduce the catalyst, we try to reduce to the metal part, we find differences. We find that before reduction is the green curve, after reduction we have more absorption, and that ends up to about 0.5 mole per kilogram. That's a lot. So you have to accept that you can never explain that by the platinum. So you must have a little bit of absorption of the copper. That's the first conclusion. And it appears in TPD work or so that this is really irreversibly absorbed. So the reactant absorbs the copper very strongly. Now then I summarized it. Then the coke deposition, you can do it in situ of course. We take a fresh catalyst, you see here that in our sense that you have built up of coke in the beginning very fast. It has been reported by other people using the TEOM, and this is absorption mainly. A little bit of gas density change as I explained before. It's mainly absorption. And here's the raw experimental data. When what I did not tell you, we are the conditions. We are not very high temperature, 1 atmosphere, and we have a rather low concentration. And the H2 reactant moderation is 2 to 1, except this one is 1. Experimentally, we need 1 to. So we in principle we have access only 100%. So that's not much. So it's logical in such a condition that coke isn't a problem. It could have started in that way. Here you see it's rather hoping because already after 80 hours we have about 12%. That's enormous. So you need hydrogen to reduce coke formation.
Just to remind you, there's 10 minutes left.
10 minutes. I'm glad that I skipped off. For the model, I use basically the work that has been pioneered by Vermogen, also in a newer group that has been done. And in that case, by simple exponential function, for the deactivation function, you come to an expression. And you can debate the interpretation of it, but as people often notice that with noble methods this works quite well. And here then the fits, you see here the spent and fresh catalyst. The spent catalyst, of course, has a lower coking activity. It should, of course, because it has been deactivated. And see the activity goes down, the activity also from, let's say, 85 to 80. And when we take the span patterns, you see it's dramatic. In 40 hours, the activity was already lower, it goes down enormously, and the activity goes to about 10%. So you're making here not a propene, but a chloride containing propene. And of course, we were thinking how could it be? You would expect that here you're blocking the pore network first, probably. But why is this so changing? And I want to give few speculations. I think that's for a conference. Perhaps you have a better one. Comparing it again against the coke, you see the fresh is rather smooth and the span goes down completely. Why is this so? Which I need 4 sheets or so. Now this is a scheme you could use, and I think there are 2 options. Either we take a chemical risk, that we say that there are chemical changes in the sites. I give an example of that. Only a couple, like engineers, want to do chemistry and kinetics and mass transfer. So first, the chemical changes, what could be? Well, I think myself it could be true that you perhaps have the model that the copper bonds the chlorides. Platinum districts H2, and via kind of spill over. The H goes to the chloride and removes it. That's HCl. When you deactivate, the platinum will be deactivated, absolutely, and that the copper will not be freed anymore on the chloride, and you have too much chloride, and the copper might have only 1 chloride, or none. And I think that explains it. Also, we could go to a more kinetic world that we could say, as people often defend, that you stepwise dechlorination. First the one chloride, and then the second one. And then you could go in this way, or in this way. Well, the lower conversion, that you would expect more chloride products, but you would expect that in such a very mass transfer in the system that you would have the end product. So it's not reasonable. The other way around, we also could say we make one step of propene, and then you go in a secondary step to the chloride containing one. That's possible. Then you say, okay, I have such a mass transfer limitation that I end up with the end product of the A gives B gives C scheme. Okay, the conclusions before the chairman gets nervous. The TEOM, I think, is a quite good instrument. We advocate to use it. We're not shareholders, so we have no interest. It has many advantages. Flow through the back bed, very mass transfer, mass heat transfer, no bypassing, very good time response. And 1,2 DCP is a remarkable reaction. I never saw such a thing before at this type of chemistry. Propene is the main product. We have extensive code formation, and we have several explanations, and we ended up with 2 at least that could we will elucidate it, except that some of you gives a very good theory that we believe. And also what I didn't say, with such a laboratory setup, we could completely validate the pipeline work at the down. So that's TEOM is a good instrument. And I want to acknowledge co-work by Moulijn, John Silloff now, and Dow Chemical Company for the financial support and your attention.
Okay, guys, open for questions.
I have perhaps an explanation of the major factor for the loss of selectivity. Actually, the distribution inside the particles, of even at the very small particles, of platinum and copper is different. So you have a segregation actually, not an intimate association. So you probably block one of the partners preferentially. So I believe the key problem is at the start, impregnation, how to have a flat distribution of equivalent quantities in the shell structure. And then when disperse to achieve this?
In fact, my chemical explanation was close to that. I said probably if you block the platinum, you have to know how to spill over more to the copper. The copper gets then poisoned by the too much chloride. So I agree with that. It could be that they are apart, but that we don't know.
You can check that very easily with XPS.
I did do that, of course, with XPS, but those carbon systems have a lot of carbon and not so much active material. We did try to do that.
Size of these crystallites, can you tell us some more about the catalyst?
We're not allowed to do that. That's, of course, you see, we are here in industrial research, we're not allowed to do that. The XPS shouldn't have told that, if you're doing that.
Jacob, if you get some more money from your sponsors, let me suggest something. The deactivation function that you used is, in fact, an empirical.
That's right.
That means that you use that when you don't know the true mechanism of deactivation. Now, you hinted yourself towards that. There is site coverage and there is pore blockage. Now, suppose you would express the deactivation in terms of site coverage and pore blockage, then perhaps you could see a difference and perhaps say, well, it is more pore blockage. With 35%, that's not unlikely. More pore blockage than site coverage or whatever.
I completely agree with that. What we also plan to do is, on top of that, to do some mass transfer work. That you see how the internal diffusion changes in that dramatic moment that you go to the few percent additional carbon. And then you should see it. But you're completely right. That certainly we will do.
Let me add to that. I mean, for that empirical formula for the deactivation function, we have come up with an explanation. If you look at the industrial catalysis, what it is, if the carbon deposit is random deposit, that means it can go to active site and non-active site, you will get this kind of exponential dependence deactivation function.
Sure, there is a theory behind it.
Yes.
I must
It's
say,
not empirical. You can explain
I
it.
said semi. That's not because I've been reading your lecture, your paper. I would say semi-empirical. It's a nice way, but still for your system you could all go into detail, of course.
I have perhaps a personal curiosity, but anyway, have you attempted to study the chemical composition of coke? I mean, if you think that we may find chlorine chemically bonded to coke.
We did not do that. We did do it extensively in related work. I expect there's chlorine in the coke, I'm nearly sure. I would be surprised if there's not any chlorine in the coke. But we did not check that yet.
I think we have to go on. Thanks.